Coming up, credit where credit is due. Most voters don't know what President Biden and the Democratic Congress have already done. That's next. Anat, you've studied this kind of communication. How does the communication chain work from the President of the United States telling people, this is what I did for you today, down to the actual voters who need to know that?
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking me. So a message is like a baton that has to be passed from person to person to person. If it gets dropped anywhere along the way, by definition, it isn't heard. And even someone with arguably the largest pulpit, right, the President of the United States, the notion that what people think about Democrats is actually made out of what Democrats say or do is almost laughable. And in fact, it is the media, hate to tell ya, that determine what it is people hear about these programs. The child care tax credit, for example, was dropped right around the same time as what happened in Afghanistan. That swamped the coverage. And to me, it is very, very sad that the numbers that you report are there. And that's certainly what we're seeing in our nightly focus groups, very much reaffirms that, and in the polling that we've done privately. But it's also utterly unsurprising. If the media isn't telling folks about these things, then how is it that they are supposed to get this message, even if the president is reporting on it?
And Anat, is that example Sam just gave, taxes going up under President Obama, is that just the enduring impression that under Democrats, taxes go up, and under Republicans, taxes go down, and there's very little you can do with the relatively uninformed swing voter about that?
Yeah, what I would say about that is that motivated cognition is a hell of a drug. And what I mean by that is that a more effective descriptor of the human cognitive processing system would be, I'll see it when I believe it, not the other way around. What we find in experiment after experiment is that when people have already cemented a worldview, they in essence have a frame around what is occurring, then facts are simply impervious to it. They bounce off of it, right? In lay terms, if you've ever had the experience of trying to tell one of your friends that the guy that she's dating is a complete and total jerk, and you provide her fact after fact after fact, and they are just going ping, 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 that's what I'm talking about, but spread across massive issues of social justice and economic well-being. And so people are incredibly adept at discounting factual information, at simply weeding it out, not paying attention to it, ignoring it, that doesn't fit their pre-existing frame. And so it's precisely as you said, if they have an existing storyline about, quote unquote, what Democrats do and how they behave, then facts are pretty much impervious to it. Now, rather than get very, very sad about that, because one could, but one still has to go on, we could recognize that we have to speak, as your previous guests were saying, in the language of values. And more than that, as I often like to tell people, don't take your policy out in public. It's unseemly. Messaging about policy is always less effective than what that policy delivers. So when we ask people, how do you feel about paid family leave? They're into it. When we say instead, you're there the first time your newborn smiles, they're way more into it. When we say raising wages, very popular. When we say instead, everyone makes enough to care for their family, way more popular. What Democrats need to do when they do have the mic is stop selling the recipe and start selling the brownie. Stop talking about the names of your policies and instead speak to voters in imageable terms about what it would feel like to have that as the reality in their life. And so it's not a child care tax credit, which is the name of a policy. It's you go off to work and you feel great about what your kid is, and you know that they're safe, loved, and cared for, and that you can afford it.
Anat Shenker-Osorio and Sam Stein, thank you both very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.